Hello, welcome to another edition of Crop Life Retail Week. I'm Eric Sfiligoj, editor Crop Life and Crop Life Iron, here again with Lara Sowinski. Laura, how you doing on this fine morning?
I'm well, thank you. How about you? How's it going?
Doing well. I mean, it's been, fall here in Cleveland, in Northeast Ohio, where I live. And the other day it was about 80 degrees. I think we set a record for a high temperature this late in the season. And, had all the windows open. The dog was not enjoying the leaf blowing going on in the yards by me, so she kept barking. So let's just say it was an unproductive day on that regard, but the dog was happy. That's all that matters. So.
Well, that's good. Yeah, that was probably your last 80-degree day for the year. So,
I would, yeah, because again, this morning got up and it was like 57 degrees when I woke up, and then when I was listening to the radio coming to work this morning, they're like, "Well, and that's the high for the day," and I'm like, "All downhill from here." That's great. So.
that's good.
So, hey, just so now that we've gone through the obligatory talk about the weather, you didn't mention Texas, but I'm sure it's probably cool there, probably about 81, 82, nice and cold day. You're wearing sweaters and.
Well, we're actually down to high 50s. There's a cold front coming through, so
Ooh,
hence the
ooh.
fleece vest and scarf and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I know it doesn't happen often, but I do remember years and years ago, I remember I had this one trip in the middle of January where I was going down to, I think I was heading down to like Houston or somewhere, somewhere on the coast, the Gulf Coast of Texas. And, I got up, there was a blizzard outside in Cleveland, and made my way to the airport slowly and got there, and the flight took off. And then when we landed in Dallas, for my connecting flight, it was 41 degrees in Chile. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, I've gone this far south. Shouldn't it be warmer? But
You never
yeah,
know.
I know it happens sometimes. All right. Well, anyhow, hey, let's get to some news of the week. So I do have
Okay.
some news to share. This is on the consolidation front. There's folks, of course, in the crop nutrition space that are familiar with a company called Tessenderlo Curly.
Mm-hmm.
And they announced this week that the Tessenderlo Group, which owns Tessenderlo Curly, has acquired another good, well-known crop nutrition company called Tiger-Sul, which is a North American provider of sulfur-based fertilizer products. So that acquisition closed on November 6th, so it's now in the past. According to Tessenderlo Curly, this strengthens their specialty fertilizer portfolio and will continue to help growers provide better yields and also make for a healthier plant for everyone. The one thing to note is Tiger-Sul's brand name will continue under the brand name Tiger-Sul. And then Russell Sides, who's the executive vice president at Tessenderlo Curly, said, "We're excited to welcome Tiger-Sul to the team, and we look forward to our ability to offer customers Tiger-Sul's complementary crop nutrition and soil enhancement products." So again,
Great.
another consolidation going on in the marketplace, but again, this one in the crop nutrition space. So
Mm-hmm.
our congratulations to Tessenderlo and our best wishes and good luck to our friends at Tiger-Sul.
That's great.
All right. Well, hey, this is a story I hadn't gotten to. It happened a while back, but there's been so much news and travel and other things going on. I had not gotten back to it, but it's still timely at this point. Of course, as our viewers are aware, over the last several years, we've talked many, many, many times about all the legal lawsuits, the wranglings in courts, and across the nation for the crop protection folks
Mm-hmm.
regarding various products and their safety or supposed safety with plaintiffs. Of course, our friends at Bayer with glyphosate and Roundup have been seriously affected by this. But this took place back at the end of August, and I'm just getting around to it now. The folks at Bayer actually claimed a little bit of a legal victory. The Third U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in Philadelphia rejected a plaintiff's claim that Bayer's Monsanto unit violated state laws by failing to put cancer warnings on the label of their product. So that was a unanimous judgment by the panel that basically said that The Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, and Rodenticide Act requires nationwide uniformity in pesticide labels, and that superseded any Pennsylvania law regarding warnings on the label. So this was important because this decision by the Third Circuit Court of Appeals was in opposition to some rulings by the San Francisco and Atlanta Court of Appeals in similar cases. So based on those discrepancies between these three different lawsuits, Bayer is now fairly confident that they'll be able to get the whole litigation regarding Roundup to the Supreme Court, to have the Supreme Court reconcile some of these decisions being made by circuit courts that are in opposition to one another. So fingers crossed, maybe the Supreme Court will weigh in and maybe we'll finally get some resolution to all of the lawsuits that Bayer's had to face.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, no, interesting development. And like anything, it's just, at the end of the day, it's just having the certainty, sometimes one way or the other, just, not having things in limbo, particularly with pending lawsuits that, could really drag things out. So, yeah, no, that's good. Good news.
Yes. So obviously, viewers, stay tuned, because if the Supreme Court takes this up, we'll let you know that they've got it on the docket. And we'll let you know what they decide. So
yeah, for sure. No, good news. Got it.
Yeah. So let me kick it over to you then, Laura. I think you said you had some news to share with viewers as well.
I do, somewhat in a similar vein. As we've mentioned recently, we are working on a special report, the ABCs of ESA, and we're looking at developments related to the EPA's obligations to comply with the Endangered Species Act and the rollout of several strategies in an attempt to do that. The herbicide strategy, the final herbicide strategy, came out in late August. And one thing that is unique, notwithstanding the fact that it's a final strategy, the EPA does reserve the right, as new information becomes available, et cetera, that some of these things may change, the guidelines, the requirements, and so forth. And indeed, American Soybean Association released issued a press release on October 28, the title of which, "Soy Growers Alarmed After EPA Moves Endangered Species Act Goalposts." So I'll read a couple things from this press release, and it really is, as we've mentioned, likewise, November 15th, next week, Eric and I will be hosting a webinar with 4 panelists on the topic. Part of this ABCs of ESA special report, in addition to the publication that's coming out in December with Crop Life, December issue, we'll have a webinar on the 15th. So American Soybean Association expressed concern after the EPA imposed additional restrictions on farmers, a move that seems to have followed adverse comments from environmental groups. A new registration for glufosinate P was announced October 18. However, EPA lagged in releasing the final label for that registration. The label is finally available, and again, this was October 28. And with its public posting, additional unwarranted restrictions are evident. Environmental groups claim that the number of runoff points and the size of the spray drift buffers currently required by EPA are insufficient. And in response to the comments, EPA expressed confidence in its own findings that the registration would not jeopardize species or their habitats. Further, the agency said the draft registration was informed by the herbicide strategy. However, in the final label, additional restrictions were included. So an official with the ASA said somewhere between the draft and final registration, EPA, without explanation, tripled the number of ESA runoff points required and imposed a new 10-foot mandatory ground spray drift buffer farmers must adopt to use the new glufosinate P herbicide. Growers should be worried about the precedent this will set. So again, this is exactly what, and I recall specifically attending the CPDA meeting in September. Kyle Kunkler from the ASA, who will also be one of our panelists next week, mentioned this very thing, that EPA does have the discretion to make some changes, and this one obviously not in the favor of farmers. So um, and undoubtedly, this will be something that we'll be talking about next week. So if you go to croplife.com, there's information on the November 15th webinar there. Eric and I will be co-moderating, and it'll be nice. We will keep it PowerPoint light, if you will, truly a roundtable discussion with our panelists, including Kyle, and some questions from the audience weaved in. So timely development gives us something certainly to talk about next week. Not that there's not plenty, but this is a big change.
Yeah, as was stated in that press release, the moving the goalposts. I mean, again, I know that was the big fear for a lot of the folks that I've been talking to over the fall regarding the ESA rules, and then what finally might be the the actual rules that the grower community will have to be following when it's all said and done. But
Indeed.
yeah, again, very timely, and yes, please join us for the webinar. Hopefully you'll enjoy the interaction between Laura and I and the panelists, and hopefully you'll get some good information out of it as well. And fingers crossed it'll be very useful moving forward as we move into the 25 growing season. So.
Yep.
All right. Well, Miss Laura, time for your favorite segment of the show. Time for Fun with Numbers.
The answer is C.
You haven't even heard him yet. All right. What do you I saw a movie one time where it was like they gave like a 2-minute warning or 1-minute warning to the kids taking the tests, and and then one of the persons sitting at the desk was like, C, just started marking C the whole form. So it was along those lines. I see you know that movie too, maybe. All right. Well, Miss Laura, your number this week is 1.9 million.
Okay.
Not a dollar amount, not a unit of measurement. This is a hard number, 1.9 million.
Okay.
All right. So is 1.9 million, is that A, the number of growers in the U.S. as of 2022? Is it B, the decline in tractor sales across North America in 2024? Is it C, the number of rail cars used to transport grain in the U.S. in 2024? Or is it D, the number of times the average person swore during the 2024 presidential election, depending upon their candidate's performance? The reason I say that is a lot of the interviews I heard on the radio the day after, people were hoarse. So obviously they were screaming and yelling quite a bit.
A was the decline in growers in 2020?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. B.
B? No, was not. No, your first inclination was correct. It is A.
Oh, A.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. The USDA Census of Agriculture released a report saying that as of 2022, 1.9 million growers was the count in the U.S. That was down from about 2.5 million, like in the 1990s. But some interesting tidbits from that report.
That is
the average age, the average number of growers that are over 65, according to the census, 4 out of 10. And that is a big increase from 2017 when they did a census. It was up 12% from that census.
Yeah.
And then one other tidbit to share, 6% of the farms have more They have more than $1 million in annual sales.
Mm-hmm.
They operate 31% of the farmland in the U.S. and generate 3/4 of all ag sales. So
Wow.
again, that 6% is incredibly profitable
Mm-hmm.
in terms
Mm-hmm.
of the total market presence that they have. So
Wow. Yeah. Consolidation in that segment as well. Then that's a lot of
and
farmers that have left the industry. 1.9 million.
well, that's the number of farmers in the industry.
Oh yeah, but I mean down from what 2 point. What was
It was
the
like
number?
it was, wait a minute, let me get the exact. It was, I think, 2.5 as of, yeah, it was 2.5 as of 1990. And that
Wow.
actually, the 1.9 million is the smallest number of farmers in the U.S. since 1850, not 1950,
Man.
1850.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But again, there's still a lot of growers, 6%, that are generating more than $1 million in sales
Yeah.
annually.
Big
So,
farms.
so there you go.
Cool. All right.
Oh well,
Man,
sorry, Laura.
I gotta get
Maybe
my
next week
niche.
after we do our webinar, you'll get the question right.
All right. I'll keep studying.
All right, sounds good. Well, thanks everyone for joining us for this edition of Crop Life Retail Week. On behalf of myself, Eric Sfiligoj, Lara Sowinski, and everyone at the Crop Life Media Group, thanks for joining us, and we will see you again next week. If you have questions or comments about today's episode of Retail Week, contact us by email or Twitter, or type your message in the comments section below. Your feedback is important to us. We will try our best to address your thoughts in next week's episode, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel.